Hi, good morning. I'm Meghan Shinn. I'm here speaking with Peggy Anne Montgomery. Hi, Peggy Anne.
Hey, good morning.
How are you?
I am great. It is a beautiful spring day here in Delaware.
Excellent. I think it's a great day to check in about the bulb lawn project that I came down and watched you do in conjunction with Garden Gate last fall. So the bulbs had a nice sleep, and then I'm guessing that they came up and bloomed for you. And do you want to just catch us up on what's been going on?
Sure. So I just want to thank you so much, Garden Gate Magazine, Horticulture Magazine, for coming down and visiting my husband Dan and I and helping us share this story about bulb lawns. It's just been terrific. And, I've had seen 60 springs now, but they still never cease to amaze me. And this year has been especially wonderful with the bulb lawn. I started tracking things, and the first flowers were the Iris reticulata, and they started coming up February 27th, and it's been a nonstop show since then. It's just gorgeous. It keeps changing. More bulbs keep coming. It gets me out of the house, when it's a cold and dark day when I might otherwise not want to. And it has just been, it's the talk of the neighborhood because everybody here walks. And so everybody is checking on the progress and stopping us to, it's like, you've got bulbs in your grass, how can you do that? And so we're the talk of the town, and it's been super fun to share this.
Yeah, that's great. I do remember your neighborhood is kind of like a nice loop, so I can imagine people walking through there and probably just every day, just as yourself, they're probably excited to see what's new, what's coming next, right?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah. So I know that you planted these for a progression of bloom. So you mentioned that you started the Iris reticulata came up like late February. So here we are. It's already mid-April. It's hard to believe. But what went on? How did everything bloom in progression from there?
Well, the crocus started coming up just about at the same time, just a little bit later than the iris. And after that, the scilla started coming up, and the tulip foliage was there, and it was looking really strong. And then the tulips started to go. The Canadoxa is blooming. The Muscari has just started to bloom about a week or so ago. And so we've got this like blue underlayer, and then these just light giving gorgeous yellow tulip sylvestris, which is a botanical tulip and one that is perennial. So it just keeps changing. Oh, and I forgot the daffodils. Of course, the daffodils were out early there. It's daffodil, it's tete-a-tete, and it's quite a small one. So it's perfect for the lawn area because it doesn't have, a foot of foliage that's going to have to die back later. So they're still in bloom too, and the pollinators are loving it. I have found myself, what a geek, like sitting in the grass next to the bed, just watching the bees go to town.
Yeah. Oh, that's great though. Did anything surprise you? Did you have any surprises as you saw the bulbs start to come up?
Yeah, I did. This is Mother Nature again. She keeps me humble. But there's this one spot, it's round, maybe 2 feet across or so. It's like a circle, and nothing came up at all. And I know that we planted bulbs there, so I'm not sure what happened. I'm wondering if some of our squirrel gangs like got in there and like ate a bunch in that one area or something
Mm,
like that. I'm not exactly sure. But anyway, so there's an empty spot. So what we're going to do is fill that in. We've got bulbs all over the garden. So when they start to go down, I'm going to dig them up, and then we'll replant them in that circle so it'll be all filled up for next year.
okay. So do you mean you will be like replanting them, you said when they start to go down, so like later this spring, not waiting until the fall?
Oh no, I'll do it later this spring so I can see where I'm planting and
Mhm.
that I'm not, using an auger and, damaging any other bulbs around it.
Right.
We grow about 10 species of snowdrops. And so we have snowdrops everywhere, and the foliage is just now starting to lay down. When it starts to get a little bit yellow, actually, my husband Dan is really good at this. Every year he goes in there, picks them up, divides them, and starts another group. Dig dig, divide, repeat is his motto. Of course, spreading plants and bulbs. And so we'll take those, some muscari and some other things, some other iris I have, and then we'll just plant those right in that circle later this spring.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, Dan is great. He's a great guy. He was working hard that day too. And it's funny, you sent me home with my own package of, I believe you gave me 200 bulbs to try, and I did do sort of a mini bulb lawn. My own husband, John, is not a gardener whatsoever, but he helped me with this project. And he was excited to use the bulb auger, because you gave me the power planter too.
Yeah.
So that was great. But, you know, I found actually sort of an interesting tip that we came up with. If anyone else is a little bit of a procrastinator like I am, because we put it off, you know, put off planting them until I think it was Thanksgiving weekend, maybe.
Okay.
So the ground was up here. It was starting, I'm outside of Boston, so it was starting to freeze a little bit. We had a hard time getting through the top layer. And also just in our lawn is kind of, I think it's partly because the soil is compacted. So John said, why don't you get the reciprocating saw? So we got that, a little reciprocating saw, and I kind of scored the top layer. And then he came along with the bulb auger, and then he knew exactly where to drill. And, you know, it just got through that top layer of turf a little bit easier. So yeah, it was
that's
fun.
really clever.
Yeah.
I've never seen anybody using a Sawzall in the lawn before. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was his idea, you know, and he was proud. And then when we had our first iris came up and bloomed March 27th, so about a month after yours. And he was really excited to see it. So I think, you know, the bulb lawn might be turning John into a gardener. I don't know. I've been trying for 20 years, but this might be the trick.
You know, I am so excited to hear that. I think this project is so exciting. And, you know, for a relatively small amount of work, what you get back year after year is incredible. And I think when we can show and share this ideas with gardeners and new gardeners, and they're going to be successful, that's how we make more gardeners.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So, you know, and I think this is a good time of year for people to start thinking about if they do want to try this project. My feeling is whenever you're doing like a specific gardening job where you want really specific plants, and then for this one, you do want the dwarf bulbs. And if you wanted to use narcissus, you would want that tete-a-tete, you know, something really short like that. So it's always a good idea to sort of plan ahead, figure out, you know, where are you going to order these, get them, even do a pre-order if you want, even though, so you won't be planting them till fall, but spring is a good time to plan ahead a project like this. So do you have any advice on bulk ordering, or, you know, what you could expect to pay for a project of this size?
That's a really good question. And so we put in about 1,200 bulbs in our front yard, and you'll see from the pictures, it's a really big area that we covered. And I went out and I just kind of priced it out, you know, from an online bulb supplier, just to give folks an idea. And that would have cost if I'd bought them about $650. And that's a pretty good chunk of money. But what I do want to tell people is, I mean, if you can do that, go for it. Wow, it'll be something you will have forever and be wonderful. But if you need to start with a smaller patch, you certainly can. You know, I've got some great areas in the backyard where there's some big stone outcroppings. And I thought, oh, I'm just going to do like a splash around those this fall. So it doesn't have to be giant. You can start small, start in one area. You can add on to that. But that's about what it costs to do this big bulb lawn. And it's big. It's really good size. So what I would do is when you go to a retailer or to an online bulb supplier, I would look. Sometimes they have things like they call, you know, like super sacks, where you can get like a landscape mix of something. I think that we will start to see in the future that some will be actually having bulb lawn mixtures you can buy. That's coming. So look for things like that. Shop around a little bit. Everybody should be a good shopper. Compare prices. And when you're looking at bulbs too, you're talking about the size of the bulb. So one may seem less expensive, but it might be much smaller. So just keep your eyes open. I know that I have friends in the business that go to the big box stores when things go on sale, and there's nothing wrong with that. But just remember that this is an investment that is only going to grow and be more beautiful every year. It's really a no-brainer.
Yeah, yeah. And I do think that starting, if people do want to start smaller, like such as with the sample that you gave me of the 200, I know in your project you were drilling the holes side by side by side. So we kind of scattered ours out a little bit more. So they're a little more spread out, but it's pretty and it looks like they were just cast there by the wind or, I mean, so and that little corner that I have it on, it's right when I turn into my driveway. So it's just nice to see coming and going. Uh, and then, yeah, I feel like what you said about the rock outcropping, that's another point I thought maybe we could talk about today is I found with mine, my one issue with it is that the backdrop isn't great. I'm kind of redoing my foundation border. So right now there's the bulbs and then there's kind of like nothing to back them up. And it's pretty for me to look at, but I've been trying to take pictures to show you. And it's like, oh, Peggy Ann's going to think I have no garden.
No, I wouldn't think that at all because I'm not a photographer and I've been trying really hard to take pictures of mine to share with you guys. And I feel like my pictures just don't do it justice. So mine are planted really close together to give a really big impression. But I also love the idea of the way you did it, spreading them out a little bit. It looks very natural. It's beautiful. They are all going to grow and multiply, and all of those little pockets are going to get bigger and bigger. So it's just an aesthetic question. It's whatever you want. You pay the mortgage, you get to decide what you're going to do there, right? So
Right.
little bits, big bits, it doesn't matter. It's all precious.
Yeah. Yeah. Bulbs are precious. Absolutely. I mean, especially a mix like this that cut up so soon after winter, really at winter's end. I mean, mine were coming up, it was still snowing. We finally got snow. Um, we had a very warm winter. And I kind of wondered if that had an effect on the bulbs that I planted. I did find that the tete-a-tete narcissus was actually shorter than the crocus when it started to bloom. It seemed to come up, and I know it's a mini type, but I thought this is extremely mini. So I don't know if maybe it was the mild winter or us planting them so late would have caused that. They seem to be stretching out now, but I wondered about your experience with the daffodils, if they
Yeah,
were shorter.
same thing, same here. And I also feel like that they're flowering just a little bit later than established bulbs in our garden. For instance, I've been noticing that with several things, like muscari is already blooming in the backyard and it's just coming up in the front. We planted a little bit on the deep side. That does help keep the squirrels away usually. And so they may have needed a little more time to come up. So that might be an establishment thing. I don't think that the time changes a lot, but it's about a week or so, just a little bit, just a little bit. So that could be an establishment thing. And the warmth we didn't have any snow at all in Delaware this year, which is crazy. And ours, start to flower early. Our aconites and snowdrops started blooming on January 25th. And some plants follow the temperature and some follow the calendar. And that's about when they usually start. We can have snow. And here's one thing I kind of regret. I didn't put snowdrops or winter aconites in the mix. And that was because the wonderful people that I represent at flowerbulbs.com were paying for my bulbs. And so I was really trying to be careful with their money. And I do have a lot of snowdrops and aconites in other places in the garden. But I wish I had done it so that your readers could have seen the party start at the end of January and follow it all through February, March, and April and into May. Because this is, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck, months worth. So I think what I'm going to do, because, we're gluttons for punishment. So Dan's already scoped this out. So we're going to use a power planter with kind of a narrow auger on it. And we're going to go in between where we planted before. We'll be able to see because the foliage will still be there. And we're going to drop in snowdrops and some winter aconites. I just want everybody to see it start early. And, I was just maybe being a little bit frugal with their money, and maybe that's not bad, but I'm going to fix that.
That's not at all bad, Peggy. And, and I think now, people can just add those to their list and have their own surprises next spring. And there's do-overs in gardening, right?
Oh my gosh, there are so many do-overs in gardening. For people that don't know, my husband Dan is a horticulturist too at Chanticleer Gardens, and people think like we never have a plant die, because we're two horticulturists, and it's like, oh no, like we kill thousands of things because we're always trying to push the boundaries and try to grow something that shouldn't grow here, and it's like, well, if we put it in the gravel garden, it might, and that is gardening. Gardening, your garden is never done. It shouldn't be. You got to keep trying stuff. We say you really haven't killed a plant till you've killed it 3 times. So, that's just part of gardening and learning. And you don't even always know the reasons. Mother Nature can throw you a curveball, and something that should grow might not sometimes. And it's all part of the fun. It's just all part of that. And with bulbs and perennial bulbs like this, they come up so early. They're so precious. Every spring, it just amazes me that everything is coming back to life. And I don't know, I just think for myself, I just appreciate the first flowers of spring so much. Now in the garden, new things are starting to bloom every day and I almost can't keep up. But those first things are just like fireworks, it's really special.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Gee, Peggy Anne, do you think we've covered it all here? All the updates on the Bulb Lawn project? I think so. Or anything?
Yeah. No, I would just say, start small. There's nothing wrong with that. I love your idea of planting them a little bit farther apart in little groups for a more naturalistic design. Pick one area of your garden that you think is pretty that you want to emphasize and somewhere that you can get to easily. In our front yard, we left a 2-foot border around the bulb lawn so that we can still get into the other borders and, clean up and do whatever we need to. But I just would say start, get together, have a bulb planting party. One of my girlfriends got together with all of her neighbors and they planted a bulb lawn in that strip between the sidewalk and the street, down their whole street. How cute is that?
Yeah.
Have fun. Gardening is all about fun. Have fun. It's easy to do. Really, we put all of those in a morning. You saw us. It goes super
I
fast.
sure did. Yep.
Yeah, and
Yep.
it's super fun, super easy, and you will be successful. Just go out there and have fun. Flowerbulbs.com we don't sell anything there, but there's all kinds of information for education and inspiration. And again, we just can't thank you enough for Garden Gate and Horticulture for helping us share this story, because I think when people try it, they're going to be so happy and grateful you did.
Yeah, absolutely, Peggy, and that's what we're here for. So thank you for sharing your expertise, and say hi to Dan, and we'll catch up again soon.
All right. Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks, Peggy Anne. Bye.
Bye.